We had to do a special bonus podcast this weekend. The Mike Vrabel era gets off to a near perfect start. That's where we begin on this episode of Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Patriots fans? I'm your host, Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England, also host of the Everything Pats podcast, co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles, and a sports talk show host veteran. On today's episode, the 2025 draft class explodes onto the scene in the very first second of their very first game. Also a look at the biggest blemish of the night and how it happened. But first, Mike Vrabel takes his first step in fulfilling his promise to Pats fans. We appreciate you joining the show, making us your first listen, and for being an everydayer. The Locked On Patriots podcast is a proud partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It wasn't flawless. The first preseason game against the Commanders was not a flawless football game, but the Patriots unequivocally looked like a Mike Vrabel professional program. Let's get this straight, and I'm not going to repeat myself 150 times during this episode with this caveat, but it does have to be thrown out there so we keep everything in proper context. This was a preseason game. Washington sat 30 dudes. So this was the Washington 2s versus the Pats 1s for the most part to begin this game. And then you had the Patriots 2s against some of the Washington's 2s and 3s. So that is the context of this game that we're going to talk about. However, this episode is not about hanging banners. It's not about throwing parades. It's not about guaranteeing 2025 regular season success. What we're watching for when we watch the first preseason game for any football team is whether or not that team is beginning to build the right habits. Are they setting the right tone? Are they mostly doing the right things? That's what it's all about. And let's begin with that. Let's begin with that by going back to Mike Vrabel's introductory press conference when he said the following, quote, "We're going to demand effort and finish. People ask what non-negotiables are. Our effort and our finish is going to be the contract that we make with our teammates. That will be my job to make sure it happens." And what you saw during this first preseason game was effort. You saw a team playing hard, not giving up, not giving in, making multiple efforts. That's what you saw in this first preseason game. You also saw finish. I don't know how many times we've heard Vrabel say effort and finish, effort and finish, effort and finish. The effort was there. They played hard. The finish was particularly there. How many times, if you want to go back and watch this football game, be my guest, it was a fun one. Third quarter lasted about 3 hours, but it was a fun football game to watch, all being a preseason game. If you want to go back and watch this game, go back and watch this game and count how many times a Patriot running back or receiver finishes strong. How many times did a Patriot running back run through contact? How many times did they drop a shoulder and go into the defender? How many times could a Patriot have gone out of bounds, but instead turned upfield, dropped the shoulder, looked for contact, initiated the contact, and went through the contact? Count how many times. That's finish. Brian Baldinger on Twitter, he put a video out earlier today about Will Campbell, and watch how many times Campbell finishes his block. Doesn't matter that TreVeyon Henderson is 3 or 4 yards beyond the block at that point. Campbell is finishing his block. He's taking guys to the ground. He is sending a message. That is the type of finish that Mike Vrabel wants, and that's the type of finish that we saw in the first preseason game. Javon Baker making tackles on special teams as a gunner. That's the effort. That's the finish. Getting downfield. Making those plays. I'm going to guess that Baker doesn't love the idea of playing special teams. I'm sure he wants to be a number one receiver in the NFL, but he also wants to make the team. And the fact that Baker is getting downfield, making not one but a couple of special teams tackles in a preseason game tells you the message that Vrabel is sending is clear. This team is picking up what he's putting down. And so far, they're showing what a Mike Vrabel team is supposed to look like. And they're playing fast, sideline to sideline, not much hesitation. They're playing fast. The effort was there. The finish was there. The energy was there. Playing fast was there. You know what else I saw during this preseason game? Discipline. Discipline and mostly smart football. We'll get to the Maye fumble later on in this episode because we've got to talk about it, but that will come later. I want to highlight the good because there was so much good with that game. Disciplined football and mostly smart football. The first accepted penalty in this game on the Patriots, I believe, came in the fourth quarter. Now, they had a couple of penalties in the first half that were offset. Washington was a disaster. They had, I don't know how many penalties, 10, 11, 12. They were just sloppy all night long. Patriots weren't sloppy. Maybe at the end you had some bad tackling, a little bit of sloppiness here and there from the young guys. Kobe Minor, for example, Mr. Irrelevant, missing a tackle, had a penalty. But for the vast majority of this game, disciplined, smart football. Not many penalties. How many pre-snap flags did we see thrown out there? I mean, compared to last year, how many pre-snap penalties did we see, even in the preseason on that offensive line? Flag after flag after flag. Last night, not so much. So you look at the disciplined play, you look at the smart play. And you also look at the overall operation. Are plays getting called in quickly? Is the play getting disseminated quickly from Robert Spillane defensively, from Maye offensively? Are the guys lining up in the right spots? Are they getting to their spots quickly? How many delay of game penalties did we see last season? How many times did we sit through a football game and say to ourselves, as we're watching the guys trying to line up, do they know what they're doing? Do they know where they're supposed to be? Doesn't look like it. Did that happen last night? Did you see anybody frantic pointing to people? No, you're supposed to be over there. You're supposed to be over there. We didn't have a single delay of game penalty. The play was into Maye quickly. The play was into Dobbs quickly. The play was into Woolridge quickly. And they got to the huddle. They called out the play. The guys lined up where they're supposed to line up, and they snapped the football. It might sound ridiculous, but it truly is refreshing watching that clean operation. It didn't look like a mess. There might have been more than one blown coverage, but I saw one, and that was on Monty Rice, the fourth or fifth string linebacker losing the tight end late in the game. That was a blown coverage. But just watching this from the first quarter all the way through, there wasn't many, if any, times when I sat there and looked over to my wife, Kelly, and said, what was that? What in the world was that? These guys look like chickens with their heads cut off. These guys look like they have no idea what they're doing out there. They have no clue what their teammates are supposed to be doing or where they're supposed to be. I didn't see much of any of that. Did you? Did you see the mass confusion? Did you see chaos? Did you see hysteria? I didn't see any of that. A calm, cool, and collective program, a professional program, a serious program. That's what I saw. And if there's going to be a time when there's chaos, hysteria, sloppiness, the operation's a mess, if there's going to be a time when that stuff pops up, it's going to be the first preseason game. Now, maybe it comes in the second preseason game, but you usually see that. You saw it with Washington. You usually see that type of stuff early in the preseason. So the fact that the Patriots were buttoned up in this first preseason game tells you the habits are being built. The good habits are being built. And that is significant. Speaking of significant, it took this rookie class 1 second, literally 1 second, to make a significant impact in the first preseason game. But it didn't stop there. That's next as we continue with this episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one single place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Just think about one financial goal you've been meaning to get to that you're serious about. Monarch Money can help you get there. One place, one app, not all sorts of confusion and messiness. Take those subscriptions and throw them out. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, that code is LOCKEDONNFL. Head to monarchmoney.com with that code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff almost here, and that means fantasy football is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. You might be playing Yahoo Fantasy for the first time. Your friends might be playing Yahoo Fantasy for the first time, or maybe it's your millionth time. It doesn't really matter because Yahoo Fantasy, best in the business, they've been around for 28 years, and they're celebrating that 28 years of fantasy football greatness by dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. When we talk about rookies, we have to truly appreciate that it is a step-by-step process. A step-by-step process for every single rookie, UDFA, drafted, top draft pick, whatever. And that's why we're going to go step by step when we evaluate this 2025 draft class. And they passed. They passed the first test of their first professional game. It was a preseason game, but it's still a professional football game. And the excitement about this class, we were all happy, I think. I don't want to speak for you, but I think all of us were happy with the draft class. I mean, the draft weekend was terrific. The class was universally praised by pundits and experts and insiders. And that excitement that we had in late April continues as we creep towards the middle of August. Let's start with TreVeyon Henderson. I mean, my freaking goodness. The very first touch. We've talked about Henderson having a very good camp. Maybe being the most impactful player. You could say Pop Douglas is close, but Henderson, one of the most impactful offensive players throughout camp so far. And it literally took him his first touch, 1 second into the game, and he is breaking out a kick return for a touchdown. I mean, did you jump out of your seat? Preseason game, I don't care. I just about jumped out of my seat and knocked my beer over watching this. So TreVeyon Henderson takes it to the house with his first touch in a professional game. Yeah, I guess that's the explosivity that we've been talking about. I guess that's the home run ability that we've discussed. Instant impact, instant explosion, instant offense. I mean, you're seconds into this game, and already you've seen a play that would probably go down as one of the most exciting plays that you would have seen all last year, including the preseason. Took a few seconds. Boom, gone. But Henderson wasn't done there. How about the 18-yard run on the crack toss? You see how he hits a different gear when he starts to get to the second level? It's like he initially reads the blocks, he gets behind him, and then boom, he gets into that second level. And that's when we talk about somebody who can take a crack toss that should get 6 or 7 yards, and you get 18 yards out of it. That's when we talk about somebody who can take a screen pass that should probably get you 5 or 6 yards. All of a sudden, you get 25. It's that second gear that Henderson is capable of hitting. And you saw it maybe a little bit later in that 9-yard reception to the right side of the field where, first tackler coming downhill, elusive, gives him the shake and bake. And mom helped. Give him a shake and bake, and mom helped. That's an old school reference. You got the elusiveness against the defensive back, right? Little juke. Whoop, see ya. And then after the elusiveness that you see from the first tackle attempt, he then does what we talked about earlier in the first segment. He drops that shoulder and he runs through the tackler. We saw it from Henderson. We saw it from Gibson. We saw it from Chisholm. We saw it from Larison. And Henderson on that run. Elusiveness first and then finish second. You saw a lot of what he could do in a very short amount of time. I am supremely jacked to see TreVeyon Henderson play football this year. And I think most of you are too. But of course, it doesn't just stop with Henderson. Let's get to the rookie offensive lineman. A lot of questions. We'll talk about Marcus Bryant later because he deserves to be part of this conversation as well. But I want to focus on Campbell and Wilson. Left side of your offensive line, 2 rookies. Talked about it. Wilson with the quick rise to the top of the depth chart after missing OTAs and mandatory minicamp. And so we were going into this game wondering what Campbell and Wilson would look like, how much they would play, what we would see. The Henderson crack toss, there were a couple of them. You can go look at Brian Baldinger. I mentioned this earlier. He threw a tweet out showcasing Will Campbell. It's about a 90-second video. You should check it out. It's worthwhile. And you're watching the video, and just watch Campbell, his athleticism. One of the reasons why many think, and I tend to be part of this camp, that Campbell has a chance to get past the length questions is because of his supreme athleticism. He is literally one of the best athletes that we've seen come out of the draft at his position. And you see that last night, and right off the bat, McDaniels calls, crack toss, get Campbell out in front. Campbell gets to that second level with that athleticism. He absolutely just humiliates a poor cornerback who is trying to take on the block. I mean, just humiliates him. And you can see it later on, another crack toss where, Henderson's a couple of yards, but Campbell is just finishing. He's riding his guy down the field. You don't want any of that. You also saw the nasty from Campbell. Finishing those plays. Throwing the guy down to the ground. Being on top of somebody and making sure they feel it. Frankly, just giving cats the business. And that's the part of the mentality and the nastiness that Campbell brings that I love to see. Talk about setting some kind of tone for the offensive line. You had a 3rd and 1 duo block where the Patriots convert on a 3rd and 1. I think it was Stevenson running up the middle. And you can see Campbell and Wilson with the duo block making more than enough room to get 5, 6, 7 yards on a 3rd and 1. The young guys on the left side mostly held up. Joseph Pasteris had a note on Twitter. Pass blocking stats from Next Gen. Campbell had 8 snaps. He was clean. Wilson had 8 snaps. He had 1 pressure/sack. Now, we'll talk about an issue that also has to do with that Maye fumble. We'll talk about an issue that Campbell and Wilson had on a twist. Whose responsibility, what happened there. We'll have more on that later. But most of the snaps that we saw, and there weren't a ton of snaps, preseason game, we get it. But most of the stuff that we saw, those young guys held up. Let's put it this way. If Campbell and Wilson were turnstiles in this first game, we wouldn't feel good about it, would we? But they weren't. We'll get to the flub later. Let me close out with Kyle Williams. Well, I'll talk about Kyle Williams, then I'll get to Marcus Bryant. Kyle Williams, it's like stats versus reality. Infuriating game for Kyle Williams. Infuriating for me and frustrating for me watching it as a viewer because Kyle Williams kept getting open. Beats his guy at the line of scrimmage. Unbelievable quick move route at the line of scrimmage. Gets open for a slant. Walk-in touchdown. Dobbs, high and behind him. Incomplete pass. 2 times, Williams beats his man, stacks the defensive back, gets down the field, has a step, if not a step and a half, if not 2 steps on his guy. The first play, Dobbs underthrows him. The second time, he gets mugged. No defensive pass interference call. It was a frustrating night for Kyle Williams, but it was a very promising night for Kyle Williams because he showed he can get open. He showed he could get downfield. If his quarterbacks and then the official, if they were willing to help him out just a little bit, we'd be talking about an explosion from Williams in his first preseason game. So I was buoyed by what I saw. And for Marcus Bryant, Doug Kyde wrote, he started at right tackle over DeMontre Jacobs. Morgan Moses was out. And Bryant stayed in the game when other starters departed. And he moved over to left tackle. So it looks like the Patriots are at least contemplating having Marcus Bryant as their swing tackle. And back to Joseph Pasteris with the next-gen stats, Bryant had 24 snaps in that game, gave up 2 pressures. So all in all, a good night at the office for Marcus Bryant statistically. You could have something there. Let's just be patient. All right, we got to the biggest blemish. We got to get to it. The biggest blemishes, some of the biggest surprises of the night. We'll have all that next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course or even off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I mean, if you're a golfer, think about the wildest shot you've ever made. Was it a total fluke or a well-calculated miracle? Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. Grape, ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down that Bev card. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKDOWNNFL to receive 20% off your order. Offer is only valid until September 30th, cannot be used with other promotions. And the code is not good on subscription orders. It's on one order. Remember that. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. So we talked about all of the good, and we'll get to even more good coming up in just a few minutes. But we can't act as if the biggest blemish of the night didn't happen. And that was Drake Maye. He had the biggest blemish of the night, and that was the fumble. It was really the biggest blemish for Mike Vrabel's debut as the head coach. Let's start with the fact that you just can't have it. You can't have it. It's year 2. That type of play from your quarterback is inexcusable. And when we talk about Drake Maye, the biggest, I've said this before, I'll say it again. The biggest step forward that Maye needs to take is to not turn the ball over. Too many turnover-worthy plays last year. He had, 10 picks in all intents and purposes, 10 games that he played. He has to take care of the football. And what happened last night just cannot live to see another day, Drake. Live to see another day. There's no reason why you're trying to keep the ball up, hanging out there like a loaf of freaking bread, dangling it around. I don't know what we're doing. I guess you're trying to make a play. And that's the old gunslinger mentality. But at times, discretion is the better part of valor. You got to tuck that ball in, take the sack, and say, we'll get him next time, boys. You can't compound a mistake with an even bigger and worse mistake. The team is relying on you. They're depending on you. You can't turn the football over. A quarterback that doesn't take care of the football will destroy any team. So Drake, he's got to be better in that situation. Vrabel was all over him in the postgame, and he should have been, calling it a terrible decision. And Maye took accountability like he always does, which I appreciate. But what I would appreciate more is making less of those types of mistakes in your second year as an NFL quarterback. Now let's get to the other part, because it wasn't just on Maye. It was also on Will Campbell, Jared Wilson. There was a twist that Washington's defensive line threw at the young offensive lineman and they got beat by it. Now, here is Evan Lazar, who knows a heck of a lot more about offensive line play than I do. Here was his description of what he thinks happened. He wrote the following. Check him out, Patriots.com. The Maye strip sack appeared to be mostly on Campbell from this perspective. Campbell committed to what appeared to be an inside move by pass rusher Jacob Martin, but Martin was setting a pick for Newton to loop around on the stunt. Ideally, Campbell passes off Martin to Wilson at left guard and then blocks Newton. For now, Lazar writes, we can chalk it up to two rookies still getting their feet wet and learning to communicate in the NFL. Hopefully, Campbell and Wilson build chemistry and recognition to pass off stunts moving forward. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. So you had a mess up from your rookie offensive lineman on the left side, and we have to anticipate those things happening. When you have a rookie left tackle, a rookie left guard, mistakes are going to happen. It's not to excuse them, but mistakes are going to happen when you're so young. The bumps in the road. It's just whether or not you respond to those bumps, and as time goes on throughout your rookie season, we see less bumps. So you have a mess up on the offensive line from your two young linemen, and then you have Drake Maye making the terrible decision, as Vrabel called it, by trying to make a play, trying to make something out of nothing. Just tuck it, go down. It's fine. We'll all be okay. So you just can't have that. All right, let's move on to wide receiver watch. Now, I tweeted this out last night, and some people I don't think liked it. I tweeted out that Jordan Polk had more catches than Jalen Polk, and of course, I had a couple people say, of course, you got hurt. That was the point. That was the point of the tweet. I know he got hurt. I was watching. I saw it on the jet sweep. He went down. But that's the point. The point is somehow, some way, whether it's not knowing where he's supposed to be, whether it's injury, whether it's maturity, whether it's, just confusion, lack of communication, whatever it is. Jalen Polk has been an absolute nightmare to this point. And last night was the perfect example of it. Last night was the perfect Jalen Polk game in a nutshell. Didn't do much of anything. And I liked Polk a lot coming out of college. I thought he was a good pick. And so far, I've completely whiffed on that. He gets out there. He gets his first touch of the game on the jet sweep, goes down, injured, to the tent, to the locker room, done. I don't know how you can't write him off at this point, for at least for this season. We'll see what the injury is. We might get news when this podcast comes out shortly after. He might be done for the season. We have no idea. But it really is just the perfect illustration of Jalen Polk's failed time here with the Patriots. It's been brutal from almost the beginning. Some of that's on him. Some of it's not on him. Some of it's bad luck. But the point stands. The undrafted cornerback, Jordan Polk, whatever, had a catch last night. Jalen Polk didn't. Meanwhile, Javon Baker, I think, showing he's trying to do everything he can to make this football team. We mentioned the special teams tackles in the first segment, and that shows a level of maturity. Baker, who memorably told Patriots fans to be ready because he makes people stand up out of wheelchairs, and then followed that up by doing pretty much nothing in his rookie season. He's had a really good camp the past couple of weeks. He's picked it up. He's pushing for at least that sixth wide receiver spot on this roster. And right now you would say that spot is his. And then he gets into the preseason game. He's making special teams tackles, showing you that he's willing to do the little things to make this football team. Big step forward the last couple of weeks for Baker. Big step forward for Efton Chisholm. I'll tell you what, Efton Chisholm is fighting to make this roster. He's doing everything he can to make this roster. He's mostly been quiet during camp. He's picked it up over the last couple of practices. But in the first preseason game, he gets his opportunities, and he took advantage of it. He had a strong end to the first half with a couple of catches. Then in the third quarter, 4th and 1, makes that touchdown catch, wobbly throw from Wooldridge because his arm gets hit. Chisholm stays with it. Pretty nice catch. Made the game 34-11. Then later in the third quarter, he drops his shoulder on that 3-yard gain. I mentioned it. He could have stepped out of bounds. He didn't. turned upfield, dropped the shoulder. Then he had that tunnel screen for about 20 yards where he let the blockers set it up for him, and then had an impressive little juice right there to make the boost towards the first down and getting that first down. 6 catches, 50 yards, touchdown. With Polk seemingly injured again, Kendrick Bourne injured right now, the door is officially open. It's officially ajar for Efton Chisholm. All right, before we go, a couple of other names I wanted to bring up because they deserve it. Truman Jones, thought he had a good night. Might make this roster. Was on Kansas City's practice squad last year, joined the Patriots practice squad, was active in the final week of the season against the Bills. He's had a good camp. I thought his run defense was there. I thought he had a couple of pressures. Calling his name an awful lot last night. Good showing by Truman Jones. Shout out to Jeremy Springer, whose special teams were terrific. The kick return for a touchdown. The 62-yard return from Antonio Gibson, who also had a good night last night. The kickers. The Patriots might have 2 kickers. Parker Romo drills a 57-yard field goal. Special teams. Terrific last night. One last note, not so terrific. Anthony Jennings playing special teams with 3 minutes and 18 seconds left in the fourth quarter of the first preseason game with the Patriots up 30. Hopefully they can get something for him in a trade because I don't think he's making this roster. That wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Reach out to me on Twitter at NickCRadio. Don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. That helps us. What also helps us is hitting that like button. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you for being an everydayer, making Locked On Patriots your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Lee Sterling, Kevin Rogers, MLB Locks, Football Futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.